Hello everyone, welcome to Sharmit. From this session, we are going to start another series where we will learn about all the properties for border. Okay. Prior to this session, we discussed about all the properties related to background, right? So in the series of learning CSS, from today we are going to learn about the border properties. Okay, one by one we will talk about all the properties that we can apply in order to customize the border. And in this session, we are mainly going to talk about the border width property of CSS. Okay, so by the end of this session, you will be able to understand how to use border width property of CSS, what all possible values are there that we can specify in order to customize the border. But before we proceed with the session, I would like to recommend you to please go and check out the previously released sessions first, because they all are in proper sequence and sync. So if you follow them sequentially, then it would be much more easier for you to understand the ongoing topic. Because for time being, we are just mainly focusing on how to use border width. Okay, but prior to that, you should know about the basic things like how to create div. So you can refer the HTML playlist, right? And then you should know how many ways are there through which we can apply the CSS. So if you know about these basic stuff, then it would be much more easier for you to understand the ongoing topic. Okay, fine. So let's start the discussion through code. Here you can see the code is very simple and straightforward. We have just noted down one heading which shows CSS Cascading Style Sheets by Sharmit. There is one title that shows Sharmit. So if I show you the output of this code, you can save it and refresh the browser. You will see that now on a browser, we can simply see this heading, that is CSS Cascading Style Sheets by Sharmit. Now what next? Now, whatever topic we are going to learn, we will mention it as a heading. So let's keep it as a second heading, H2. And here I'll put the name of the topic, which is border hyphen width property in CSS. So this is our main topic, border width property in CSS. So now if you refresh, you will see that yes, heading is coming as like this, border width property in CSS. Now what next? Let's understand the requirement, and as per the requirement, we will create the things. So requirement is that I want to create one div here, but on that div, I want to apply the border for which we will do the customization through border width property. Okay. So first step is to create the div, and we all know how to create the div. So let's create the div first. So here I'll write div. In div, we will provide ID. We will associate one ID, because to apply some CSS we will be using this ID. So here I'm writing box with capital B. Remember one thing, this is case sensitive. So if you are writing something here with capital B, make sure to use it with a capital B. Otherwise it won't work. Okay. So we have added this div. Now what next? We are going to use this in CSS. Now we have three ways to write the CSS. One is through inline CSS, internal CSS, or external CSS. You can use any option or any approach which you want to go with. But for this example, I'm going to use the internal CSS because I want to write both things and I want to show you all things together. So for that reason, here I'm writing style tag to initiate the internal CSS. Okay. So we have added this thing. Now what next? Here we will put firstly we will access the div through selector, and selector would be ID. So to use the ID, we will use hash symbol here. Then you can write box, then opening and curly braces, and then we will set the basic property for the div like width and height. So here I'll set the width first. So I'll simply write here width. Width would be 900 pixel. It is up to you. Like if you want to increase or reduce the size, that is also fine. Then we will set the height. Height would be 600 pixels. Then we will create one border. So for border, for now I'm using this shorthand which will just specify solid, because I want to create a solid border. Okay, usually you might have seen this, like we always write border 5 pixels solid black, but this time I'm not going to write this because step by step I want to explain all these things. So with the shorthand I'm just showing you this border solid. Now one by one we will explore all properties. So today's property is border width. So let's see how it looks without any width. So if you save it, refresh the browser, you will see that one border is coming here. Perfect. Now our requirement is we want to customize the width of this border. So for that reason we will use here the property which is border width. So simply write here border, then width, and here we can provide various values. Like there are different ways to provide the value here. So first thing we are going to talk about is the keyword values, because we have 3 keyword value that we can specify here. The first one is thin. So as its name indicate, it will create a thin border. So you can just simply write thin, save it and refresh it. So once I refresh the browser, you can see now the border is coming with a thin line. Okay. Similarly, let's say if you don't want to go with a thin, you want to go with a thick border. So in that case, you just need to write here thick instead of thin. So just simply write here thick, save it and refresh the browser. So once I refresh it, you will see now the border is coming with a thick line. Okay, so far we have discussed 2 keyword value. The first one is thin, which shows a border with a thin line. The second one is thick, which shows the border with a thick line. Now what will happen? Let's say if I want to show a border neither thin nor thick. So in that case I can opt the option that is medium. So let me show you how it works. You just need to replace this thick with medium. Now you can save it and refresh it. So now this border is called medium border. Okay. So in keyword values we have 3 options: thin, thick and medium. Clear? Now let's say for some project there is a requirement where you want to set the width but in terms of pixels. So is it possible? Yes, you can select your own values and you can specify it in pixels. Let me show you how. So let's say I want to create a border with 5 pixels. So I can simply pass here 5px, save it, refresh it. So once we refresh it, you will see now the border is coming with a 5 pixel. Likewise, if you want to go with 1 pixel, that is also fine. You can set it as 1 pixel and it would work. Sometime as per the requirement, there might be possibility that we want a border of 20 pixel. So you just need to change the value to 20 pixel and you will see now the border is coming with a 20 pixel width. Okay, so this is how you can customize your border using border width property of CSS. Okay, and it is not always fixed that you have to select 1, 10 or 20. It is up to you. In case if you want to go with a 19 pixel, that is also fine. Okay, in case if you want to go with a 37 pixel, that is also fine. So it totally depends on you, like how you want to customize it. But the overall thing is that, like, yes, we can customize the width of the border using border width property of CSS. Okay, sometime let's say if I want to go with 100 pixels, I can save it, refresh it, and now you can see this div border is coming as 100 pixel. Although we don't use these kind of borders, these kind of large border, right? Because usually we go with a 10 or max to max 20 pixel. But as I mentioned, there might be requirement as per the project. So it is totally depend on the project requirement. If you want to create a larger border, yes, you can provide the values. And if you want to go with the default size, so you can select the keyword value like thin, thick or medium. Otherwise you can select your values in pixels, and as per the value you have provided, it will show you the border. Okay, so mainly in this session what we discussed how to use border width property of CSS, how to use keyword values like thin, thick and medium, where thin is used when you want to show a thin border line, thick is used when you want to show a thick border line, and medium is used when you don't want to go with either thin or thick. Then we will opt the option which is medium. Later on we discuss how we can set the values in pixels. Okay, so in this session we have discussed all the things related to border width property, and in the upcoming session we will discuss few more things. So thank you for watching Tech Sharmit.